Again, hello and welcome to the webinar today, and thanks for joining us again. My name is Owen Kearsey, and I'm the Technical Pre-Sales Manager here in Exertis Ireland. In today's webinar, we'll explore Fortinet's flexible points-based consumption programs, namely FortiFlex, FortiPoints, and FortiMarketplace. Do ask any questions you may have in the chat box, and we'll leave some room at the end to address those. We'll also be sending some follow-up information after the webinar, and do note this webinar is being recorded. So let's get on with the show again. Okay, so the first points program we're going to look at is FortiFlex. FortiFlex is a points-based consumption model for Fortinet services, giving you more flexibility in how you choose to consume those services and subscriptions instead of your traditional annual fixed-term contracts. I'm sure the three challenges highlighted here are commonly experienced for everyone on the call when planning for and delivering customer projects while accommodating for any future growth. Looking to offer short-term evaluation proof of concepts to prove the value to the customer before they commit financially to longer fixed-term subscriptions, or having to work with really short windows of opportunity to roll out a solution, tackling delays in the procurement process under tight timelines. FortiFlex provides a self-service consumption model to address all three of these challenges. Can we feasibly scale or improve the solution as the customer grows? How do we size accurately for today, but also tackle any rising costs for any proposed future services as the customer and technologies evolve? And lastly, in those short windows of opportunity to execute, how do we make sure that we have the ability to deliver quickly in all aspects and have full control of the procurement process? FortiFlex will allow you to allocate the flex points you purchase for the program to Fortinet services as and when you wish, having full control and flexibility in how long that service is active for. This could be for endpoint agent-based subscription services such as FortiClient, EDR, SASE, VM platform subscriptions like FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer, and others, or even FortiGuard and FortiCare subscriptions on hardware such as FortiGate, FortiSwitch, or FortiAPs. The platform is centrally managed in FortiCloud, Fortinet Support, Asset, and SaaS Administration Portal, allowing you to manage, allocate, automate, top up, and track your current and future flex points consumptions. This oversight and flexibility can help eliminate overspend with the ability to activate and deactivate Fortinet services on your assets covered by the program in a predictable OpEx model. There are two flex programs available: prepaid, which is enterprise, and postpaid, which is MSSP, choosing whichever program fits the profile of you, the partner, and how you service your customers. Both require an application process to onboard into either program. Each has different requirements in terms of commitments to annual spend and the rolling over of any unspent purchase flex points through the year to be available for the next year. But in summary, enterprise requires buying flex points upfront, and unused credits have set conditions for rolling over to the next year. So do check the service programs and info we send out after the webinar. MSSP is a post-paid invoicing program, paying the bill for whatever you have consumed at the end of each billing period through the purchase of flex points, a pay-as-you-go, and there is a commit to minimum spend in order to join the program. Consumption of credits on both programs is calculated daily in the Flex portal. The only difference between the two programs is really the payment model for your Flex consumption. Though there are some consumable solutions that only align with the MSSP program at the moment, EDR or FortiWeb Private Cloud at present. So do check the ordering guides where this is all detailed. You can see here a better insight into the Fortinet solutions we can consume through the Flex program. You sign up and go through the approval process for either the enterprise, prepaid, or MSSP postpaid program, whichever suits and that we qualify for. You get access to the Flex portal located in our FortiCloud partner account. We can then provision new solutions and services, associate flex points to those service and support subscriptions you want activated or enabled on the asset. Once set, the asset will consume points on a daily basis for those services. On the right-hand side there, we have listed the solution subscriptions currently available to spend flex points on. It is important to keep an eye on the documentation as new solutions are added to the Flex program. It's also important to understand minimum order quantities of those solutions that apply here. It is also important to check the solution you want to spend flex points on is covered under the Flex model. For FortiGate hardware, for example, there is a list of select models that you can currently use flex credits to enable FortiGuard and FortiCare subs on. So do consider and check support of legacy FortiGate models. These subscriptions can indeed be enabled and disabled by consuming flex points for the short term instead of committing to traditional fixed term annual licenses. Some key takeaways on FortiFlex before we move on to Flex's bigger brother, FortiPoints and Forti Marketplace. FortiFlex offers a central platform in FortiCloud to manage the licensing of those assets under that FortiCloud account. Within the same Flex portal, we can activate and provision new Fortinet subscriptions and solutions, endpoint licensing, VMs, SaaS solutions, and enable FortiGuard and FortiCare services on select hardware for short or long-term use cases. We can monitor, track, and automate our spending, giving real flexibility into how we consume Fortinet solutions and services. There's also a Flex Points calculator available on the Fortinet portal to calculate how many Flex Points a particular subscription license will consume through FortiFlex. Now on to the bigger brother, FortiPoints. Let's speak to the similarities of FortiPoints and FortiFlex firstly. FortiPoints is a prepaid credits or points program to consume Fortinet services that can not only be used to enable FortiFlex, but also the consumption of more solutions, licensing, and services which are not available through FortiFlex. So why do we need FortiPoints? Well, let's take a look at some of the other consumption options we get with FortiPoints that are not available with FortiFlex. You may or may not be aware that in addition to FortiFlex, there are already other points-based programs available through Fortinet today, each designed to make licensing of the products and services in their respective catalogs more flexible, scalable, manageable, and reduce the time taken between procurement and activation. We'll break out each one of these points programs, including FortiFlex, into the next slide. See FortiFlex to the left, which you've discussed already. We've discussed what services and solutions we can spend FortiFlex points on, flexible term lengths we can define, and the enterprise and MSSP Flex programs. But there are also other Fortinet services and solutions which already have their own unique credit or points-based consumption models. When you want to buy points for any of these specific programs to enable the services they offer, you have to pick the program aligned to each one. FortiSIEM, advanced services, incident response services, and we'll get to the Forti Marketplace later on, all have their own points programs to consume these services, and none of these are covered by FortiFlex. All isolated programs with their own point SKUs and balances. You buy Flex points to spend on solutions and services available in Flex. You buy SIEM points to spend on FortiSIEM consumption, advanced services points to spend on professional services hours, incident response points to leverage incident response assisted hours. But at the end of the day, this isn't the most efficient system. With money invested in different programs, you have no flexibility to move points from one program to the next should you abuse them. So this is where FortiPoints comes in. FortiPoints provides a parent platform. Those points can be distributed down to each of the other points-based programs as you need. Just FortiPoints credits, and then exchange them for points in any other program as and when you need. FortiPoints sits above all of the other points programs and can top up any other program by exchanging FortiPoints for Flex points, SIEM points, advanced services credits, incident response hours, or for use on other offerings in the Forti Marketplace, which we'll discuss in a minute. Though it is important to note again that any minimum order quantities or annual commitments are still applicable to any of the other programs. Change with FortiPoints. FortiPoints merely gives you the option to have a universal points balance to distribute across or convert as you need into any of the other points programs you're participating in. There are 5 points packages for FortiPoints, each SKU giving you a certain bundle of points. Once the contract for each points purchase is activated, and that has to be within a year of receiving that contract, points will then be available for 3 years to allocate before they expire. Once you have the points in the FortiPoints balance, you can transfer into any of the other programs when you need to. FortiPoints are $1 a point. Conversion or transfer into, say, something like FortiFlex points will come at a premium as you have greater flexibility with the day-to-day consumption available for Flex points. Let's recap and refocus on FortiFlex and FortiPoints, which are 2 of the 3 primary discussion topics for today. Both are programs which will allow you to purchase points to spend on Fortinet subscriptions, solutions, and services. All platforms live in FortiCloud within your tenant. The difference in each program lies in what you can spend the points on. We discussed FortiFlex already at length, how you can purchase Flex points, what solutions and services those points can be spent on, and the flexible term lengths you can enable those subscriptions for. FortiFlex giving you the ability to spin up new subscription services quickly across VMs, hardware, and SaaS for as short a term length as a day. FortiPoints can be exchanged into FortiFlex points. but also gives you a points balance that can be spent across a broader portfolio through other points programs, solutions, and services that are not available for you. We've discussed all of the other points programs, seeing advanced services, instant response, except one, the Forti Marketplace. So let's take a look at what's on offer in that Forti Marketplace. Forti Marketplace offers you another catalog of Fortinet products not covered by any of the other points programs, such as Flex, to consume with FortiPoints. Should the Flex program not align to how you want to consume your Fortinet subscriptions, you still have an alternate option for instant procurement of subscriptions through the Forti Marketplace. Put up your FortiPoints balance, go to the Forti Marketplace, pick and choose items from the Marketplace catalog for express checkout, and use your FortiPoints balance. You can think of Forti Marketplace as the portal that enables you to exchange your FortiPoints into the other points programs, but also allows you to quickly procure traditional term-based subscriptions using your FortiPoints. See on the top right, the traditional term-based licensing you can purchase through the Forti Marketplace. For new annual licenses, renewals, or even code terms across FortiGates, FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer, switches, APs, and FortiExtender are present. The list of available licensing is growing. The new FortiGate as a service offering solely relies on FortiPoints as its consumption program. I'll send out information about that after the webinar. For FortiFlex, we can exchange FortiPoints into Flex points, but only on the prepaid Enterprise Flex program. The exchange rate from FortiPoints to Flex points will apply. Advanced services, pro services, instant response, even consulting and training options, they're all consumable through the Forti Marketplace exchange. Forti Marketplace offers fast checkout and fast delivery of supported term-based licensing in its catalog, putting you in full control of your procurement cycle and removing any delays once you have your FortiPoints balance available to spend. It helps alleviate or better tackle overspending with the ability to purchase licensing in a staggered approach to suit the stage project lifecycle, eliminating waste consumption of active licensing due to delays of project or any licensing days that may be consumed during a delay of the project. Just to zoom out again on FortiPoints, FortiFlex, and Forti Marketplace, and take a high-level view, as I know this can take a bit of time to mentally put the pieces in place, and I've said 40 way too many times already. But what we have already covered, hopefully this is sinking in. FortiPoints is the parent points program that can be used to top up or exchange for any of the other individual points programs through Forti Marketplace. FortiFlex offers a points-based system to quickly activate subscriptions across endpoint, VM, hardware, and SaaS in a daily consumption model. Forti Marketplace is where you transact FortiPoints through conversion into other point systems or directly on renewals, co-terms, add-ons, advanced services, and training. All of these points programs provide a quick mechanism to procure Fortinet subscriptions and services, and for you to have full control of the procurement process. So let's take a look at some possible use cases. So we have a scenario where a customer project requires some hardware purchasing, FortiGates, FortiSwitches, FortiAPs, and FortiExtenders. And the project is a phased deployment over a long period of time, maybe many distributed sites. So instead of buying the licensing for the hardware up front, we can use a points-based system to allocate points, services, or support that we need at each stage, as each stage progresses and its associated hardware is deployed and services are ready to be activated. The licensing lifecycle, there's no delay on license delivery. Service consumption begins exactly where we want it to, so no license wastage. And we don't have to worry about being caught scrambling for future code terms to align our renewal dates. For use case 2, with FortiPoints, we have a platform to centralize and manage our active subscriptions, taking away the need to manage large license inventory systems. We have on-demand provisioning for new services and the capacity to quickly spin up short-term proof of concepts or quick upsells. Reduce operational overhead for licensing and mitigate any delivery delays. Case 3, we have an option for any user budgets, such as in the public sector, government organizations. We can spend remaining budget into 40 points to top up our balance today and use that to provision services with those points later on down the road. So a really good use case when you have money to spend, or you have money to spend, but you need to use it by a certain timeline. Use that money to purchase 40 points and then use those 40 points within 3 years. Circling back to 40 points and the key takeaways, as we've seen, we get even greater licensing flexibility than on offer with FortiFlex and can also enable FortiFlex. We get a really simple and agile procurement portal that gives us instant turnaround on licensing procurements, consolidates all points programs, and offers access to enabling a broad catalog of solutions and service subscriptions and even training. Management of our licensing becomes a lot easier operationally. You get great oversight of enabled services and quick turnarounds in enabling, disabling, or automating subscription activation. We'll now take a look at the chat box just to see if any questions have been posted, and I'll address them as I see them. Probably a few questions in the previous webinar that we'd put up asking why we can't hear Owen or why we can't see the slides or not. So if anybody does have any questions on the topics that we covered, do post them in the chat window now. We will follow up with some information via email to send out to all of those who did join the webinar. So hopefully it'll be covered there. There's a lot of detail in each of the points programs. So just on services and solutions covered by each one of the programs, but we'll send out some helpful links that you can go and explore. So I don't see any questions in the chat box. So what to do after the webinar? Again, we'll send out a recording or we'll put it up on the YouTube page. Yeah, thanks, Derek. So we'll share the recording, tell you a look at it, and hopefully we'll either put it up on the YouTube page or send it out via email, depends on how big the recording is. But we'll get it out anyway. No problem at all. So what can you do now? So you can come speak to us. If you're interested in having a further discussion about anything that we talked about, just give us a shout and we'll go through it individually. You can review the documentation on both FortiFlex programs, so Enterprise and MSSP, and just see the differences between the two. I mean, the main one is that one is postpaid and one is prepaid, pretty much it. So we'll send out a follow-up email with detailed info on all of that stuff for those who attended the webinar. Take a look at additional coverage with 40 points and 40 marketplace. So what 40 points and the 40 marketplace will give you outside of FortiFlex and its two programs. So typically your thing with 40 points is being able to purchase your traditional annual contracts and renew them. You can use the calculators to prospect your current license spend and see how it converts into points. So see how many points you may need to cover all of your customers. Consider that you're saving on the operational overhead with your current licensing and your faster service provisioning when you do go through a points-based program. And lastly, I suppose, thanks for attending the webinar.